brand new banners for Genshin 5.1 have finally been revealed. We're going to go over the 5 stars, the 4 stars, and the weapon banner, so we can talk about whether or not this is worth it for you. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. Alongside this video, I have a brand new Tactor article that's going up with the release of this video. If you want a chance to win a free Shalonen, go down below and put one comment on each of my Tactor articles so far. It's completely free to do, and each comment gives you a chance to enter. I'll be announcing the winner on stream. You don't have to be live to win. The rules will be down below. Free Shalonen. Now, first of all, looking at the 5 stars, Shalonen and Chiori. I've already made individual videos on Shalonen and Chiori, as well as a 5-star pull review where I talk about all the characters that they're best with and whether or not that you should get her. If you're on the fence as to whether or not you want to pull Shalonen or Chiori, you want to watch that video. I'll link it at the end. For those of you who want a super detailed breakdown. Now, Shalonen is a brand new character, of course, and she's looking to be extremely powerful. She's looking to be probably best in slot for a good number of DPSs, and possibly the most impactful meta character since Farina just about 1 year ago. So if you're pulling for meta, most likely Shalonen is going to be a strong pickup, if not a must-pull pickup for you. If you're not pulling for meta, then you want to make sure that Shalonen will work on your actual teams. And it's really going to depend. I've got a video that I'm working on, of course, where I test every single character with Shalonen. It'll probably be my biggest video ever in terms of number of teams tested. It'll probably be 60, 70 plus teams. So make sure to give me a sub down there and get ready for that video. It's going to be absolutely massive. I think a general recommendation is you can't go wrong with pulling Shalonen. If you have Novelette, you're most likely should be getting Shalonen. If you have Mualani, most likely getting Shalonen. Arlecchino, probably, but Kazuha is also probably going to be just as good, maybe better. She could be an upgrade to Kazuha on a lot of teams, but of course she doesn't have grouping, but of course she does have healing. I think she's going to be really great, but I've said so much about her already that I don't know how much more there is really to say before I can actually test her. We've got to see how it actually feels. I'm really excited to see how the impact of longer lasting buffs affects characters. That's the one thing I see not being talked about, because Viridescent Venerer, the buff falls off really fast. So with Shalonen's buffs lasting like twice as long, I'm really interested to see how that impacts the team's feeling. Like, okay, it's not twice as long, but it is quite long, and it automatically refreshes for multi-wave. So we'll see. Chiori, I also made a video on the sad state of Chiori right now. Really bad pull right now for meta. Obviously, if I was a normal person, I would be getting Chiori anyways because I love her design. I love her dolls. They're so funny and cute. But there's so many characters that she's not an upgrade for. I forgot Navia is another character that Shalonen should be a huge upgrade for. Again, I made a whole video on it. But yeah, Chiori, get her if you like her, but the easiest skip of your life if you're not particularly smitten with Chiori. Shalonen will definitely be carrying these banner sales. For 4 stars, it's the Sumeru trio. Dory is a surprisingly good on-field driver for Farina teams. I made a Dory guide. You can go check it out. I was shocked with how good Dory actually is. Definitely not a character people should be going for like meta reasons, but if you like Dory, if you want to build Dory, if you need more Electro characters for your Imaginarium Theater, I think Dory is actually quite good. Aggravate carry, Farina driver. There's quite a few teams that Dory is good on, like surprisingly, but really only good at C6. And with how many great 5-star DPSs, like it's hard to really recommend building a Dory. So definitely, you know, one of the duds of this banner, of course, because most players are going to be building 5 stars as their on-fielder and like higher value characters, and Dory is just a low value character. So underrated, but still overall a dud. Candace has had a lot of improvements since she came out. Like, it's actually crazy. Once again, not a character that like meta chasers will go for, but for accounts that are more understacked, that don't have as many characters, you might actually consider building a Candace depending on what's on your account. I will probably make an updated Candace guide at some point, maybe during this banner, maybe not. It depends how it goes. I might make a Kale guide, I'm not sure. But Candace is good on Nilou teams, quite good on Arlecchino teams if you have C6, and quite good on Mualani teams, especially if you don't have C6. Kind of weird, but C6 give her extra Hydra application. I personally found it still fine at C6, but the extra Hydra application can technically mess up base, but I personally still found it fine. So if you have C6 Candace like I do, yeah, build her for your Arlecchino, Mualani, or your Nilou. Those are 3 really good characters. So for Candace to have teams that are good, that work with really good characters, that's pretty cool. Now, granted, those other characters kind of carry her, but it's her specific kit that adds on and like hyper buffs those teams, like not hyper buffs, but you were hyper buffing those characters. So it's the normal attack bonus that she gives to Arlecchino and Mualani that make it good, and it's the Hydro Infusion that makes the Nilou teams good. So really, really, really interesting character, and I love the fact that she actually has some off-meta teams that are really good. And like when we're talking off-meta, normally you think of stuff that's kind of bad, but the Candace teams with Mualani and Arlecchino are like really quite good. It is because those characters are strong, but she is contributing. So if you love Candace, like, hot damn, build your Candace now. The meta for Candace has never been better. If I was a non-creator, Candace is one of my favorite designs in the game, probably easily my favorite 4-star design in the game. I would definitely be building her, and by using her as a support, that means, you know, hey, maybe if you only have one Farina, maybe you're not using Farina with your Mualani, now you're using Candace, right? Maybe you want a higher damaging, you don't need the Xingqiu damage reduction, you want a higher damaging option for Arlecchino, you can use Candace. Pretty darn cool that Candace has some uses. Still though, for people not loving Candace in particular, still kind of, I wouldn't call her a dud, but she's a niche character. She's good sometimes, but it's a niche character. And finally for Kale. Kale is good on Nilou teams, arguably, especially if you have Elegy for the end, still a best in slot option, potentially, for a low 5-star cost Nilou team, or I guess you still use Elegy. Now that I have the key, my favorite Nilou teams still tend to use Farina, but that's probably because I'm a scrub and not a true Nilou main. True Nilou mains, I think, still prefer Kale. Once you get Kale to C6, once you get C6, she's also a super cope Dendro character for Hyper Bloom if you don't have Nahida, but it's not something I would really ever recommend. Outside of Nilou, she's very rarely used. You can use her in Aggravate, but Aggravate is not a meta team. Aggravate really needs support. There's a bunch of other off-meta stuff that I won't even talk about for Kale, because I just don't think it's that good and really worth playing. It's basically just Nilou. So Kale, kind of a dud character. So you can see the 4-stars are quite niche this time around. Like Candace is the best 4-star on the banner, probably, depending on what you have. All of them have some good uses. They're just all quite niche, and none of them are truly best in slot. Well, maybe Kale, but she's also like the most niche. So yeah, overall though, Shelonen is probably just strong enough that you don't care and that you just wish for the 5-star. You don't need that many characters to make your account sing, and having a Shelonen, she's probably, again, we'll have to test, but she's probably a strong enough character that you can just ignore the 4-stars, and as long as she's a character that fits your account, and she'll probably fit most, basically as long as your character swirls, like is a swirlable element, or I guess a more appropriate one would be if an element is crystallizable, then Shelonen buffs them. And if you have at least 2 of those characters on a team, she buffs Geo as well. So as long as your main DPS is running one of those, if you don't have a Kazuha, Shelonen's a guaranteed upgrade for your account. And if you do have Kazuha, she might still be a pretty strong upgrade. And yeah, if you already have a Kazuha, you can always have 2, I guess, either on the same team or on different sides. So yeah, I think Shelonen is a recommendable pull for most accounts, but again, wait for my guide to see. And I think that if Shelonen is good for you, I think you just ignore the 4-stars and don't worry that you're not getting the greatest 4-stars in the world. I think that's personally the best way. For the 4-star, the meta of getting great 4-stars on your account and sniping them, I think is lowered, unless you need like a very specific 4-star to make a team work at C6, like Chevreuse or Farzan. Other than those 2, you kind of just go for it, because most of the other good 4-stars that you'd use, like Bennett, you can get them from the shop. They're given for free here and there. These on the beginner banner, like there's a bunch of ways to get them. For the weapon banner, now this is super interesting. We've got 2 brand new weapons that we'll have to review. Favonius Codex, very good weapon, not insane, but very good. Rust, not good anymore. It's best in slot 4-star for Yoimiya, and Yoimiya is one of the worst 5-stars in the game, so not really a great one. Sack, Greatsword. It's good to have for support Dea. There's a bunch of teams for support Dea want Sack, Greatsword, so One of the better claymores, I would say, that you could have on a weapon. Still, like, not anything you're happy about, because claymores, 4-star claymores are pretty bad overall. And then we have the Peak Patrol Song and the Uraku Misagiri. This is a cracked weapon banner. As far as 5 stars go. I'll have to review these 4 stars to tell whether it's fully cracked or not, but the Uraku Misagiri is probably the best generalist 5-star DPS sword in the game, giving a ton of crit damage. And especially since so many teams are going to be running Shalonen now, because when you have a Crystallize, you get even more bonus on this sword. So even if your DPS, like if you're running Shalonen on if you're running Shalonen on the team that's using this sword, or Zhongli, but if you're running Shalonen, then this sword gets even better. It was already one of the better generalist swords, and now it's even better. So this is the new Mistsplitter, especially for accounts that have Shalonen. And Shalonen's weapon is great too. Let's talk about it. So it gives defense %, which is what her healing scales on. Her buffing is talent based, and her healing is based on defense. Gain Ode to Flowers after normal or plunging attack hits an opponent. Defense increased by 8%, and gain a 10% all elemental damage bonus. This doesn't really matter. It's good if you're putting it on Chiori as a support weapon, but it doesn't really matter for Shalonen, as their damage is likely very unimpactful. Max 2 stacks. You're going to get both these stacks by normal attacking with your Shalonen, which you need to do to activate her kit, so no problem there. When this effect reaches 2 stacks, or the second stack's duration is refreshed, increase all nearby party members' all elemental damage bonus by 8% for every 1,000 defense that the equipping character has, up to a maximum of 25%. So a 25% damage bonus for your all party members is really strong, especially for a support weapon. Support weapons in Genshin Impact very rarely give buffs like this, so this is a really good bonus. Kazuha gives a 35 to 38, or like a 30 to 38% damage bonus generally for most Kazuhas. So 25 is like over half, like 2/3 of a Kazuha damage bonus. 2/3 of her base kit bonus, so very good. And assuming you'll have enough defense, which I think you should, to max out this sword. So that's really cool. Keep in mind that if you're coming from 0 5-star weapons and 0 constellations, I wouldn't recommend this weapon first, because I know it looks broken, but DPS weapons for your DPS character, especially like a really powerful character, well, for a really powerful character, or a character with really good weapons or constellations, such as Neuvillette C1, Neuvillette's weapon, Arlecchino C1, Arlecchino's weapon, Mulaney's C1, Mulaney's weapon, all of them offer very big buffs already. Mulaney's a little bit more debatable if you're willing to reset for Widsith, but other than if you use a different weapon, those are really bigger buffs than this sword will give you. If you already have those, and you're the kind of person to more vertically invest, this is a really cool option to have. And given that the banner is so good in terms of the 2 5-stars, this could be a pretty good weapon banner to go for. And if you're a Chiori wanter, both of these weapons are great on Chiori. Chiori giving a buff is great, and Chiori doing more damage is also great because she's a damage dealer. So both of these should be about equal for a Chiori user. And for a Shalonen user, you won't really care about this sword on her, but if you're using her with another character on field or off field as a DPS, then this sword will be very good for her. It's also good on Alhaitham, especially with Alhaitham with Zhongli, but Alhaitham in general it's good with. So overall, just a great weapon banner for both Chiori and for Shalonen wanters. And with the fate point system only at 1, I can comfortably wish to this, like, offer this as a good option for you, like this banner, for people who want to min-max their account with some vertical investment. If you feel like you have enough characters and you want to vertically invest, this could be right for you, but accounts are so varied, it's impossible to give a full recommendation. Before we give a full rating for the weapon banner, let's look at these first. So there's a polearm that gives energy recharge. Okay, another Shangling buff. Decreases climbing stamina consumption by 15% and increases elemental skill damage by 12%. Also, after other nearby party members use elemental skills, the equipping character elemental skill damage will also increase by 12%. What polearm does basically strictly elemental skill damage and wants ER? That is a weird question. Emily? This could be good for Emily. Sino could be good for Sino because he does big damage with his skill, and the rest are hell no. So this is like an Emily or Sino weapon. We'll have to wait for the mathers to tell us exactly how this is going to be. Assuming that all your nearby party members use their elemental skill before you, which normally you would. I don't think there's any situation in which you can't use your elemental skill. That's 4 times 12%, right? So that's 48%, and then you double it, so it's 96% if you get it to refinement 5. I mean, 96% elemental damage bonus is like 2 goblets. That's pretty good. I could see this being good. Again, we'll have to wait for the mathers, but if you end up getting this a high refinement, this could be like a 5-star weapon for those 2 specific characters, because both of them can use the ER. You don't need a ton of ER on Sino, but 30% is like just enough that it's useful, like quite useful, especially if you have no energy recharge substats. And for Emily, like, she can use the ER because her burst does a lot of damage. Unfortunately, the weapon doesn't buff burst damage, so that's a little bit weird. Probably, you know, something's not going to be better than their signatures, of course, but it could be a decent consolation prize for those 2 characters. We'll talk about the Claymore next time, when it's actually on banner. I love how these weapons look, by the way. These look badass. Sturdy Bone. Attack percent, sprint or alternate sprint stamina consumption decreased by 15%. Very interesting. I like that. We should have more cool stuff like this. Additionally, after using sprint or alternate sprint, normal attack damage is increased by 16% of attack. So what characters can normal attack? And that damage counts as normal. Ayato? How long does that buff last though? 7 seconds. Okay, so it's perfect for Ayato. Only 16%. That means only 32. Maybe I'm reading this wrong, because 96 seems insane. I don't know. It seems like I'm reading it right. Let me know if I'm wrong. So Ayatos count as normal attack damage, and you are going to be, you can do a little dash before you use your skill. Chlorans also count as normal attack damage, so it could work for Chloran. I think you'll probably miss the buffs on like your last shot or 2, probably. But maybe not. Yeah, probably your last shot or 2, you'll lose the buff. Who else normal attacks? Alhaitham, nah, does lots of skill damage. Keqing, nah. I think it's only those 2. I think it's only Chloran and Ayato. So that's kind of weird. I don't, maybe it's for a future character. So I think this sword is pretty much a bust overall, and especially since I'm less confident in the power. Like only a 32% at refinement 5. I don't see this beating out like a lot of weapons. So I see the polearm as potentially quite good, the sword as and even then, like, polearm's only good for like Emily. So very, very niche. 4 stars. Still, even after all of that, I still think it's a pretty good banner to go for if you're looking to vertically invest. But if you are free to play, if you're strapped for primos, you want to collect more characters, I do highly recommend still getting more characters first. I don't necessarily recommend getting tons of 5 stars for Imaginary Theater. I think building up your 4 stars is perfectly acceptable for that. I don't see any reason. So if there's still 5 stars you want, just look at the future. What 5 stars do you care about? What 5 stars do you want? And if you're starting to get enough of them, you're starting to get constellations. If you're into that, don't have to be into that. I like the C0 meta. But if you are into that, then this weapon banner is very synergistic and really one of the best weapon banners that we've had, I think, in terms of the 2 5 stars. Probably the best weapon banner overall that we've ever had, if you consider the fact that the epitomized path is only 1 now. I'm pretty confident in saying that this is the best weapon banner we've ever had, but I still don't recommend it, of course, if there's characters that you need. So let me know your thoughts. So make sure to subscribe for Shalonin. Check character down below for giveaway. Yeah, my guide's coming. It's going to be off the wall. Take care. Bye for now.